Hello there, and welcome to the CP7 podcast. My name's Palm.
And I'm Andy.
And together, we are Chrono Passion 7. So today, it's a very special show. It's episode 7 of the CP7 podcast, and we're going to talk about WatchPro Salon 2023. The UK's premier watch event, which we were kindly invited to by Lucy Cheesewright and Dee.
And we actually managed to get in as press for the second time running, so yeah, extremely grateful.
So, Andy, what's the WatchPro Salon all about then?
The WatchPro Salon is, if you're new to the event or you haven't heard of it before, is just a fantastic event for any true hardcore watch geek, right? There are so many brands there. Extremely focused, more on, I would say, independents and more micro brands. There are many independent brands who many of our listeners will have heard of. Yet there will be some smaller micro brands who maybe you've heard a little about, but not really looked into. And there were certainly some of those brands for myself and Palm, who once you actually get the opportunity to see them in the flesh, it can be really surprising. So we just want to take you on this journey, as always, and tell you our experience of what we discovered. We really hope you enjoy this show.
But first, what we're going to do is a wristwatch check. So, Andy, what have you got on the wrist then?
I'm gonna let you guess.
I would say the gold bar. Corum.
100%. Yeah, I don't know. I think I'm a one watch guy now since wearing that. I really, really enjoy the watch. For all the reasons I've stated before, so I won't bore you all with that. But, Pam, what are you wearing?
One watch guy, huh? So are you officially announcing your retirement?
Yep, I'm done now. I'm going to retire with my one watch and sell the rest of my collection, I think.
All right, no, I am wearing a Rolex GMT Master 2 BLNR, the Batman, which is one of my favorite watches in my collection, and I do believe the GMT Masters and the GMT Master 2s are the best looking Rolexes you can get. And this black and blue combination, to me, is the best out there. So that's what I've got on my wrist.
Epic watch. One what I actually got to try while I was over in London. So such a cool watch, ready for any occasion. Really a big fan of the Batman. So Pam, who was the first brand? Who was the first brand we went to see?
So the first brand we went to see was Sinn, a German brand, started in 1961 by Helmut Sinn. They've got some amazing watches, aviation-based and military-based, some really tough watches too. We got a chance to speak to Marcus at the show and just get a few thoughts on a couple of watches that caught our eye that we took a fancy to. So 356 Pilot Classic was the one that I liked. They do it in a Panda version and also an anniversary model, which has a matte silk dial with a color gradient from anthracite to black. It's a very interesting color combination on that one, but that one is a limited edition, but the Panda was probably the one I picked out as my favorite. So we're here with German powerhouse brand Sinn, who makes some of the toughest watches out there. I've got Marcus from Sinn here, who's going to talk us through one of my favorites from their novelties, the 356 Pilot Classic. Marcus, tell us all about this amazing chronograph with a Panda, reverse Panda, and the many configurations.
So thanks, Palm, for asking. Yeah, 356, it's a very famous line we have. And coming from the pilot watches, as our name giver Helmut Sinn was a pilot, we are celebrating with this line the 25th anniversary this year. And we launched 3 different versions of the 356, coming with the size of 38.5 millimeters. Let's start with the anniversary, which is a limited edition. And it comes with looking like acryl, but it's domed sapphire glass. So kind of retro style. And it's also with glass bottom, sapphire glass, and satinized case. And what is different, because we launched it for the first time with the Japan market, was very, very famous. So 25 years ago, we decided to launch it in Germany as well. And with the new ones, it comes with the bipacks. So it's very clean and it's limited up to 500 pieces. The second one, it's another color. It's 356 Pilot Classic SAE. And it comes with acrylic like the original one does. And the case is bead blasted in contradiction to the anniversary model, which is satinized, and it comes with a solid back, and it's also pressure resistant up to 10 bar and low pressure resistant, of course. And talking about the third one, which is quite rare, talking about dials from Sinn, which is a white one. It's matte white dial. The case also steel, bead blasted, and it's with a solid back. It's also the Panda dial.
It's a great choice, and you were wearing the perfect combo, right? You had the black and white jacket on, which was a perfect match for that watch, so it did look great on the wrist. I was kind of browsing through the cabinets, and I was speaking with Marcus, and we were talking about novelties, and I was kind of thinking of which ones I wanted to see. I mean, he's like, you know what? I'd really like to talk about the T50. I was like, what's a T50? I know the U50, I know the U1, but the T50, I've never, call me ignorant, I apologize, Sinn, but I didn't really know that, that piece, and it's a relatively new piece, and it was fantastic. It's titanium, extremely lightweight. The one I tried on was in, titanium. They also do a titanium and like a golden bronze, so it's like gold mixed with bronze as well, which is really attractive, to be honest. A bit of a higher price point, but really good looking piece. Yeah, it just felt great. It felt like a perfect daily watch, yet looked smart at the same time. It had the cool little side window on one of the lugs where you can see into the watch, or no, one of the lugs, sorry, where you can see into the watch, and basically you can see if there's any humidity. It's a humidity detection system in these pieces. So when I think of Sinn, I really think like the Audi or BMW watches, just really precision engineered timepieces. And yeah, it's always a pleasure to hang out with Sinn. And that was a piece, but at the end of that journey, really did stand out to me. So Marcus, that leads me, I've been looking through the cabinets here today, and I know the U50 quite well. It's the iconic, piece from Sinn. I mean, I couldn't help but notice a T50, and I'll be honest, I haven't seen this piece before. Could you tell us a little bit more about it?
Yeah, talking about diving watches and iconic watches, as we started with the U1, which is quite big and a very famous diving watch. A lot of people asked us to do a little bit smaller, so we proceeded with the U50. And this year, we started with a brand new line. It's called T50. T like titanium, because the T50 is completely made out of titanium, the case. And it's a safety bezel as well, because one of the features is that you can't lose the bezel. So you have to press it and then turn it. So in order to avoid any accidental tournament. So that's very important for the diver, of course. Talking about the technologies, the T50 comes with AR dehumidifying technology. Maybe some guys know already, to keep the case and the movement completely dry. It's a capsule made of titanium. It is filled with copper sulfate and a little glass on the side, like an indicator, like a window. You can watch the capsule sulfate. It is getting darker and darker over the time, and it keeps the movement completely free from fogging and from moisture, which you can't avoid over the years, diffusing with the air. It's completely made of titanium, and it's very comfortable to wear due to the weight. And it has different colored illuminations on the hands.
Yeah, absolutely. So it was Penny from the Devoy group who kind of pulled us over or recognized us, which was, it's always fun being recognized. So I'm glad we're hopefully making a good impression out there. And we checked out iPod. I'm going to be honest and say when I first glanced in the cabinet, I was a little meh. I'm not so bothered about this. And this is a good comment because you'll see why in a moment. I tried on the C-Pod, and when these watches came out of the cabinet and when you try them on, suddenly you get the I get it moment. The very cool watches, they come from the 90s, and it was actually Mike Newson who is the CEO behind this brand, and he's famous for working with Apple and behind the Apple Watch as well. So does Pod, does it link with Apple? I'm not sure, but these watches were really cool. Definitely one of the most surprising brands what I tried, and I believe Palm as well. I was impressed by the quality. I was impressed by also the price point. As say, the C-Pod was around, 1,300 euros in my money. In pounds, probably even less. And I think for that kind of money, you're getting a really robust feeling watch, and a really nice rubber strap, and just really cool, funky watches. But which one jumped out at you, Palm? What did you think?
I tried on the Duopod in white and in black. They were both very clean dials, a round case, very round, not just your typical, rounded case on a watch, rounded dial on a watch, a complete bubble, a very 1960s space age kind of look, and a nice domed crystal. It was, at first, again, you'd look at it and you'd say, okay, what? And then you put it on and then you think, wow, this is actually really cool. It just there was something about it that felt comfortable, looked nice, and made you want to look at a watch. One thing about a watch, I think, that sets it apart from others that obviously don't catch your attention is the fact that when you want to keep looking at it on your wrist and look at nothing else, and you're not even looking at the time, you're looking at the watch. And this was one of those. So very good watch. And they also did it in black as well. The white was my favorite. They had kind of, because the orange hands and the clean white and the very clean black dial, almost Explorer 2 vibes to it. Very different watches, but just the color combination did. Very, very good watches. And I really enjoyed talking to Penny, who was really pleasant and very personable. And the Devoy group in general, very friendly people. And obviously they look after many good brands. And next up was Zodiac, a company which actually began in the 19th century making pocket watches. Through various journeys, it's ended up as part of the Fossil Group. And also the marketing director, Mike Pearson, friend of the show, was there to talk us through a couple of pieces that really did catch our attention. The Super Seawolf Pineapple caught my eye. One, for its very interesting looks, and two, its very strange name. But when you looked at that dial, there's almost a heavenly rays coming through the leaves on it. You have to look at it. Please check our Instagram to have a look at these watches. This is one watch you really need the Instagram for, because you won't notice until you see the photos that the dial in the right light has sun rays coming through foliage and leaves. It's just a very unique dial, and it's just very fun. Zodiac do very fun watches, and this one is probably the funnest they've done. It was created by Ariel Adams from A Blog to Watch in association with Zodiac, and here's what Mike Pearson had to say about it. Okay, so we're here with Mike Pearson from Zodiac, friend of the show. There's a couple of watches that have caught our eye. So Mike, this green one here, the Super Seawolf.
Yes.
Could you tell us its unusual name and why it looks the way it looks?
It's the Pineapple Dream. We've all got a lot of ways to look at Zodiac. We do color really well. But when we did the Pineapple Dream, it came from the mind, the imagination, and the design of Ariel Adams. So he's the founder of Blog to Watch. We took him on a trip a few years ago to the Bahamas. You and your listeners might remember we did an aquamarine version of the Super Seawolf. At that time of being in the Bahamas, he saw the ocean, he saw the colors, he saw the vibrancy, and that came to fruition. Great selling watch. It did really well for us. I didn't realize this, but he also came up with the idea of the Pineapple Dream whilst being there. So the dial is lovely. It's textured. It kind of fades from yellow through to green, just like a pineapple would. What some people might have missed as well, that obviously it's fun, but we want to be technically different as well. So the dial fades and contrasts, but it also has this beautiful, I call it God's light, and it's the sun ray coming from the top all the way through, in our mind, the pineapple leaves. If you're sitting on a beach, enjoying a pina colada or some pineapple tequila drink. And of course, pineapple means many things to many different people. Tropical, fun, whatever. But also, if you go back to Ariel's mindset, he also loved the fact that people who first started to travel to the Caribbean brought back to Europe some pineapples. And he was like, I've traveled, I've seen things. And if you look around some of the architecture in some of the older cities, you will see pineapples on bridges and buildings. All open my eyes. On the back, it says a slice of the good life, because in the end of it, it's a fun design. Technically, though, this is also a vehicle for me and Zodiac to push the brand forward. You and your listeners know that we have our own movement called STP. It's been developing over the last few years. This watch, we have added a silicon hairspring, and it's the new caliber called the 1-21. It's anti-shock, it's anti-magnetic. It's now 40 hours of power. The 111 before it was 44 hours of power. We weren't trying to increase that. We were trying to have more of a hold on how we can grow. Having this type of component inside of it takes away the need for Solita. It will also be a base for what our next movement will be at the end of the year, which is our in-house GMT. More to come, spoiler alert. But it will also mean that everything going forward is controlled and powered by us, and it's still going to be chronometer certifiable or within chronometer ratings, but now everything can be ISO certified as well. So every kind of power that we want in a three-hander, we're not on the supply chain ladder, which is a tough place to be as we grow, but we can also control the quality, and then we add and we grow and we move. But it also is bloody fun. It's got great colors with it. It comes with a NATO style strap that looks like your worst pineapple Hawaiian shirt, but it works. And it's going to be a limited batch of 500 pieces. And when we say batch, it means we might make more. But Ariel's been such a great partner that we're already designing something in another colorway for next year. So if we feel like we don't want to do the other 500, then it stops. But we open it up to come back in the future.
Excellent. Thanks, Mike. Just want to say the way the light shines on that dial, it is like a heavenly rays. It is something to actually. So check out the Instagram and see if we can catch that for you. And Andy, I think there was a very striking looking watch which caught your attention as well.
Yes, so it was called, I think it was a Super Seawolf, but laser tag. And it was crazy, right? I believe it was a collaboration with One and Wound. And they've gone full on, 80s nostalgia, retro. I don't know if some of our listeners, maybe you played laser tag back in the day, all the vibrant, fluorescent lighting. And they really captured this on the watch even from the watch strap, glowing in the dark to the dial. Again, you have to go on the Instagram to see this. These watches just come to life, both, the pineapple, which you referenced there, and the laser tag. I love to see brands having fun. I love to see brands having fun in such a stiff industry. It's great to see. And yeah, I was really impressed with Zodiac, and it's always a pleasure to speak with Mike.
So then the second watch is the Super Seawolf laser tag. And it's very eye-catching. I've got a few questions. First, yeah, where did the inspiration come from? Second question, how did you happen to get Aston Villa colours? Was that coincidental or?
Firstly, up the Villa. But there are two colours. The idea really came from Zach Weiss. He's the founder of Worn and Wound. This, again, has that new caliber as well. So we use two quite unique stories, two unique models and collections that can help drive the narrative forward. Worn and Wound will help tell their story of design, so will Ariel with Pineapple. But they wanted to go back to the 90s. They're nostalgic. They're children like us. We remember the 90s fondly. And a couple of years ago, they did a watch, and the colouring reminded people of Saved by the Bell, and that became the nickname. That flew out of the door. So for this particular collection, there are two watches, blue and red, but to be less political, we do ultraviolet and infrared. And what they wanted is to really push our boundaries with R&D. So the case is milled. We've laid loom within the case and the crown, as well as having incredible loom on the bezel, the dial, the hands. But what some people might have missed is actually the straps. Yes, they are a NATO leather, but we've got a certain material on there that glows under UV light. So like you were doing back in maybe your nightclubs or going around the laser tag halls, and even the packaging glows under black light as well. So it really was nostalgic, all about the fun. And I think a lot of people really want to see it to understand if it works well. But the claret and blue, I have worn quite a lot, and I have no idea why. How that colour might have crept in there, but I will be going to Villa Park tomorrow to watch them play and beat Fulham in this watch, so watch my Instagram for that. But it's been brilliant fun. We launched it in Brooklyn with Worn and Wound, and we had a laser tag fight, so why not? We know the watch industry is serious, and we've done serious things inside of it, but R&D, techniques, dial treatments, different ways of doing loom. I think we're really proud of where we're going here, so it's a good way to end the year.
Excellent. No, absolute stunning pieces, and thank you so much, Mike. Thank you for your time.
It's a pleasure, and we'll see you next year. Thanks very much.
So that then leads us to probably one of the most impressive brands we saw. When I say impressive, I don't mean maybe from a high horology perspective, but say for just a brand what's not been on our radar so much, but a brand what's got some real history. So Yema, born in 1948, and even at one point in the 70s, bought by Seiko. They've certainly got some real history, and it's great to see them now back in France, where they originated. The Yema watch really stood out to me was the Superman Heritage. And they had it in various variations, but the one which I really liked was the bronze. The bronze was really, really cool. It had this kind of rugged diver look, and what I liked was they really captured that vintage vibe. You know me, a vintage watch guy, right? So it had that classic kind of domed sapphire crystal. It almost looked like plexiglass in the way they did it. I really liked it. Had some really cool vintage vibes, and something simple, but the rubber strap also really jumped out to me. The quality felt really high. I've had, let's say, some luxury watches, maybe a higher price point. When we're talking Yema, we're talking for the Superman Heritage, we're talking like 1,300 euros. So, for this kind of price point, the amount of quality I feel you're getting, and I need to mention also you're getting an in-house movement at this price point. Like, how can you argue with this? I think it's quite incredible. So I was just really genuinely, really impressed. The watch felt really good on the wrist. It kind of scratched that lack of having a dive watch in my collection itch. So I am kind of tempted. I wouldn't mind that piece. Does it scratch the Submariner itch? I'm not sure, but it definitely scratches the dive watch itch. Even had like the classic diver's lock as well on the bezel, so you can't knock it when doing true diving. It just felt like a real true tool watch and great value. And I think Palm, one piece from Yema really stood out to you as well.
Yes, they really did surprise us. Yema is a brand I've heard about, I've not really seen much of. I've seen on social media and in magazines. It kind of reminds me of Marathon or Mido or watches like that. But having a look at this one, this watch was so impressive. The Yema Yachtingraph Tourbillon Mariograph 75th Anniversary Limited Edition. It's an incredible watch. It has an actual tourbillon for under $10,000. It's got a sunburst black dial. You know how I feel about sunburst black dials or any kind of dial with something about it, and it really does draw you in. So it actually has a complication which I hadn't really heard of before, called a Mariograph complication, where it consists of a tide complication placed on a subdial on the dial, and it indicates high and low tides by making gradual half revolutions every 6 hours, 12 minutes. I mean, I don't know how they do that and why they'd want to do that, but it tells you when the tide's coming in and when it's going out. So that on top of a tourbillon with a beautiful black sunburst dial and with a size of 42.5 millimeters, that's a lot of watch in a very small case. And I think, to me, that could have been the star of the show. Really, to be honest with you, with the amount of complication in that for that price point, I was blown away. What do you think, Andy? What was your thoughts on that?
I totally agree, and it did have a diver's watch feel to it. I didn't actually check out the water resistance on that piece, but maybe with the tide gauge on there, it's maybe a proper diver's watch as well. That begs the question: would you go diving in a tourbillon? Would you dare do that in the 10K tourbillon? Would you go diving?
No.
I'm not sure.
I wouldn't go diving anyway.
Let us know in the comments. Yeah. Maybe in a G-Shock.
Maybe in a G-Shock, yeah.
But, it was cool, though. I totally agree. It was a really impressive watch. Definitely kind of had its own ID. I wouldn't say iconic because it's a bit, that's quite a statement. But it was memorable. That's what I want to say. It definitely had the design once you've seen it, you're like, yeah, I know that piece, which is good. It's many brands get washed, in the mix, and I think Yema are doing some cool things and standing out within a rather large crowd. So yeah, great work.
Yeah, if you pardon the pun, many brands get washed away in the sea of other brands. But this was definitely something that this Yema really has put my eye on the brand, because it just takes one watch sometimes where you just think, I never thought a brand could do that at that price point. Because I believe it's Yema and Frederic Constant are the only two brands that do such well-priced Swiss tourbillon watches. And this was definitely something really, really good. Which led us on to our next brand, which was another Swiss brand, Cyrus. Relatively new, created in 2010 in Switzerland. It was a brand created by an entrepreneur who loved watches and wanted to get into watchmaking. So the watch that caught my eye from Cyrus was the Klepsis Dice Lime Carbon. The actual dice collection was introduced in 2021 and created by master watchmaker Jean-Francois Mohon, but this one was something special because of the color layout. The latest one, it's got a carbon fiber bezel and it has two chronograph functions on it, and it has a unique case design. It has the stop-start pusher for the chronograph on either side, like ears on a head. Very, very unique. And Andy, what was the one that caught your eye?
So I don't want to play copycat, but it was the lime, the lime and carbon. Prior to the event, I'd seen these on Instagram, so they were on my radar, Cyrus, a little bit. And the loom is immense. So the whole carbon and the lime all looms up. The whole case, it just glows.
We got a chance to speak to Thibaut from Cyrus just to talk us through this watch. And we are with Cyrus, a relatively new watch brand from Switzerland. We have Thibaut here, who's going to answer a couple of the questions we have about these amazing watches. But Andy, something seems to have caught your eye here.
Yeah, definitely. So the first thing I noticed when seeing Cyrus was just how funky the case materials are. Like carbon, from rose gold to titanium. I'd imagine it's quite difficult materials to work with. And yeah, just curious to what sparked the imagination behind the brand and the creative case materials.
Welcome to Cyrus, gentlemen. Indeed, yes, we wanted to come up with products which are totally different in the research for innovation and something completely different from the market. Basically, we like to work on carbon. We like to work on titanium. We came up this year with a new bracelet in titanium. We like to work with innovative movements, with a lot of research behind us, with a manufacturer in Le Locle, where we manufacture our own movements. So we have, for example, the introduction of the new dice, Klepsis Dice Lime, where we have in the same watch the possibility to get two independent chronographs and to calculate time accordingly, which is very innovative. We came up with the new GMT, either with a blue palm dial or what we call I mean, we call it the ocean blue and the palm green as well. Beautiful color. We came up with the titanium bracelet as well, or the Cordura bracelet, which gives also a very casual way of wearing the pieces. You know, of course, the other models, which are talking pieces like the vertical tourbillon. We could display this time at the WatchPro show the Sapphire model, which is limited to 10 pieces. All our products are limited editions, but this one in particular is 10 pieces, and we have the last pieces with us with the sapphire and the mix of gray color for the dial and the rose gold with the vertical tourbillon. So it's yes, we are always looking for innovation, looking for products that can attract collectors to enjoy wearing the Cyrus watches. Yes.
So one thing I've noticed about the dice is it has a very interesting complication. Plus, you have a very unique look to your watches. You have a pusher either side of the watch. So you say the dice has 2 chronographs. So could you explain how that works? Because it's something I've never seen before.
Sure. Basically, we have what the dice is the definition for double independent chronograph evolution. It indicates an evolution of the traditional chronograph. It has been transformed into double chronograph capable of measuring 2 short intervals of time independently or even in synchrony. That makes the difference according to what you can find in the market.
That sounds so interesting and so unique. But thank you so much, Thibaut, for your time. And it's been great talking to you.
My pleasure. Thanks to both of you. And we hope you will enjoy the show as well.
Again, I love seeing brands breaking the mold, being more creative. You know me, I'm one to break the mold personally, so I love to see just brands stepping out of their comfort zone and doing something different. And as you said, with the stop and starts for the individual chronograph second hands, you know, because it has a multiple, and you've kind of got left and right and the color coded to the hands on the dial and the skeletonization as well. I just thought looked awesome, right? Just funky and fresh and lightweight with it being titanium as well. It felt really nice on the wrist. And yeah, definitely a brand what are even more so on my radar. Keep an eye on them. They're doing some really cool stuff. Unfortunately, everything in limited runs of around 200 units, just purely, I'd imagine, just how difficult it is to create these works of art, I'd say. And with them being an independent, you know, they just can't deliver the volume what we would demand. But that's what makes them so special as well. So I'm excited to see what else they bring, you know, moving into 2024.
Yeah, that is a brand that's looking to make some serious strides in innovation in chronograph technology. And believe you me, that double chronograph is something really impressive and something very unexpected. I'd never heard of another brand doing that before.
So then that led us to, again, a friend of the show. We went over to Elliot Brown, and we've known Ian Elliot some time. A great gentleman, always a pleasure to speak with him. One of the main watches on display was their limited whiteout edition, the Halton Whiteout. And, you know, we managed to spend a little bit of time with Ian and have a good chat with him. And again, you're probably going to see this resounding echo throughout this show, but he was like, I'm just so glad we've been able to do something so different and fresh and break the mold a little bit with the whiteout. So you need to check out this watch as well. So check out our Instagram. It's really, really cool. It had like a satin finish. It almost looked titanium, right? But it was like bead blasted and it just looked awesome. And he was really excited. I think that watch sparked something inside of him where he's like, hang on a minute, we can be more playful. We can do some really cool stuff because of those military links. And they do try, you know, they don't show off about that. That's something just what they do. But I think now they're trying to separate a little bit, keep those roots, but have some great fun at the same time. So again, I'm really happy to see more and more manufacturers just having more fun. Yeah, what did you think to the whiteout, Palm? I think you tried it on actually. What did you think?
Yeah, I tried it on. I thought it was titanium first, not because it's weight, because it didn't feel like titanium, but just the actual look. And it wasn't, it was steel, like you say, bead blasted steel. It was something different. What I'm liking is when we spoke to Ian, is how he said they want to be a bit more playful, a bit more fun, mentioning Zodiac as one of the, maybe not exactly as fun as Zodiac. But this is definitely something new and fresh for them. They do a lot of quite serious military issued watches as well. So this is a nice departure from that. I think it's going to do really well and I wish them well with it. Which leads us on to another Devoy Group brand. I forgot to say earlier on, Cyrus is also a Devoy Group brand. Bianchet, a Swiss brand, also created by an entrepreneur, this time by a married couple who co-founded it, Rodolfo and Emmanuelle Bianchet. Now, these are a really good tonneau-shaped sports watch. Carbon fiber, titanium. They use a lot of lightweight materials, very sporty. You could say they look a lot like another brand, which is a lot more expensive, Richard Mille, which will cost you $250,000 possibly. Their first model, the Flying Tourbillon Grand Date, is 65,000 Swiss francs. And the second model, the Tourbillon B1.618 Openwork, will cost you 55,000 Swiss francs. And they both have tourbillon technology and some amazing colors and some amazing use of materials. Luckily, we got a chance to ask them each a question on their watches. So this is what they said. So we are with Bianchet, and we have Emmanuel here, who's a co-founder, and you've got some very sporty watches with some very interesting shapes and materials and some really nice colors. Are those materials and colors thought of in the design process, or do you make the watch and then decide all of that later? Because they are very stunning.
Yep. We first designed the watch together with our designer team, and then we decide about the materials and the colors together. So for this specific watch, we have the titanium dust high density carbon. That's one of the versions available. There's the other version with titanium bezel and back, and the colors are also decided in a second step. Yeah.
Okay, so like this green is so vibrant and very stunning, and it comes also with a black strap, so you can change the whole look of it. How did you come up with something like that, which is quite a unique color for a watch? I've not seen any watches in that green.
It depends on the color. Sometimes it really is the color that we want to have in the collection. Sometimes we also find that the material is a really available color that we also want to develop. But generally, we really have a precise idea about the kind of color we want to have.
So my next question then is, so I'm here with Rodolfo, and my question is around the innovation. So what I noticed with a lot of complicated watches, they tend to not be so wearable, not so practical for everyday wear. What I noticed what you're doing very differently is you have the tourbillon, you have great water resistance, you have great sealing, so around the case. So just how you blend those two forms together and make the functionality work with such great complications.
Well, it's a matter of design of the movement. We design a movement which is not with a lot of components, actually is 100 components, and we push as much as possible the material and the finishing. So there is a lot of unbeveling. The movement is done in titanium. We use the best producer in Switzerland. The mechanism of the flying tourbillon is in on-ball bearing. And at the end, what you have is a watch which is highly, highly refined, but it's like a 4x4. It's a very strong movement and very easy to service. So we stand shock of 5000 G. And because I love the sea, we wanted to have also under-meter water resistance, which is the case, the glue of the case. So at the end, you have the best of both worlds. You have the super high hand, but less complicated movement, which resists in the years to come.
Thank you so much, Rodolfo. Well, great answer, and thank you both for your time. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, definitely some really nice watches there. Andy, what did you make of them?
Firstly, it's just the innovation in these pieces. Again, a trend, what we were seeing with Cyrus as well, just how versatile, and it's high horology, but extremely functional, and designed to be worn and to be active. There's very few tourbillons that have such great water resistance, but I was really impressed. I'm a flying tourbillon, who doesn't love that, right? First time trying on an RM style shape, and got to admit, I like it. I've never tried an RM on before, and I'm not associating this brand directly with them, but aesthetically it does have some of those elements, but definitely it has its own design idea, I will say. But just, yeah, it felt great. And so one piece, what really stood out to me was the one with the titanium bezel, and it was with a lime green, right? It just really, really popped. I think that was my favorite. Again, we'll get these pictures on Instagram so you can see for yourselves. And again, that's something unique. That is something what the other brands don't do, who we maybe associate with these styles of watches. So they're definitely doing something unique. They're doing their own thing, but they're following that idea of that modern utility high horology sports watch. And I've got to admit, I am a fan. I really, really enjoyed their pieces.
This was another brand I was very surprised with. I actually thought very similar to RM, but when you speak to the people behind them and you try them on, you see how special these are. And the colors, from my question, as you can tell, really stood out to me. The hybrid green very earthy, natural green color. There was a lime green. You'd wear that while you're driving your lime green Lamborghini Gallardo, or whatever. I don't know much about cars, but but that's the kind of thing you'd be wearing, and it's such a cool. It just really does scream sports and fast cars. Very, very good brand. So then that takes us a bit away from watches and watchmaking per se to another aspect of watches, watch straps, where we went to see Molcan, who were exhibiting there a number of their beautiful watch straps in alligator leather, Saffiano. It was just an amazing array of watch straps. But Andy, I think you got taken by one of those straps for your watch. Is that right?
Yeah, so I got speaking, with the guys there, and somehow I ended up putting my name down for a bespoke strap being made for my Corum. And this is just a great service they do. So they took my watch and they did exact measurements of my strap, then did the closest material match to my original strap. And yeah, they're going to make me basically a replica of my original Corum strap. Bear in mind, my Corum's from the 80s. It's still got the branding on there. It's nice to preserve that original strap. So they're making me something as close as possible to the original, so I can enjoy the watch without wearing out the original strap. And on a personal level, I've been a fan of Malacan's Instagram for quite some time, and it was great to finally speak to them about some of the watches, what they picture. There was this beautiful Rolex bubble back, which if you don't love the Rolex bubble back, I don't know that reference, just go on their Instagram, you'll see it. And it's just, if you don't love bubble backs, once you see that, you will. Or any watch, to be honest. It's Sid who's doing the photography and doing the Instagram, and he takes brilliant pictures, and that bubble back's just a dream to look at. And he had a really interesting watch on as well, which I managed to steal for a little bit. He had this gorgeous vintage slimline Cartier Santos, which was absolutely gorgeous. And yeah, I think we have similar tastes. He seems to have vintage vibes. Most of the watches he posts on there, including one of my favorites, the Cartier Tortue Mono Pusher. So I think we've got similar tastes. We like those vintage vibes, but great brand. We're not affiliated with them in any way whatsoever, but I cannot do this show and not mention to our valued listeners that today, the day you are listening to this show, go on Malacan's website. They're doing a Black Friday deal where you can have up to 50% off on some of their selected straps. So now's the time. If you want a really high quality strap, I really recommend checking them out. But again, we're not affiliated. We get nothing for this, just to be very clear.
Yes, we are not affiliated, but I think Andy should be getting a job offer pretty soon. But just going back to the straps, they were amazing. I was trying to find one for my Cartier tank, and the detail and effort Michael went through trying to explain to me which ones would suit, which ones wouldn't, why they would suit, why they wouldn't, was very informative and very educational. And now that Andy's told us about this 50% off, I might get myself one. Right, so that leads on to a brand which doesn't sell watches like Cartier tanks, but is quite an unusual brand with a very interesting story behind it. Andy, what was that then?
Yes, so we got speaking with Elliot, right, from Broad Brands, and yeah, we got talking about out of order watches, which is a strange name, but it will make sense. And he went on to tell us the story behind the brand. So the original, the CEO of the brand, Riccardo Torrisi, he had an issue with his, let's say, high-end dive watch, let's say, because I don't think they like to say exactly which watch it was, but you can use your imagination, right? And yeah, he was frustrated. He had such a high quality watch, which he then had to send off to service, and he was watchless. He's like, I just want something what's tough, durable, reliable, and won't cost me a lot of money to service. So this is where Out of Order came from. And these watches look pre-beat up, pre-worn, pre-abused, and again, a brand I have seen prior to the show, and I was like, these kind of look like a very famous brand in all respects. But then when you know the story behind it, and you know that it's tongue-in-cheek and having fun and giving people an affordable watch what they can just wear, enjoy, not worry about, it did make sense, and it was very playful, right? I was really impressed. But Pam, what were your first impressions when you checked out Out of Order?
When I first heard of Out of Order, I thought they're out of order. No, I just thought I wasn't that impressed. But again, seeing them more and more of them on social media, you do get kind of drawn into the hype. But they're not hype watches; they're fun watches. And going to see them in person and the people behind them as well, you realise that they are a bit of fun. There was the cocktail watch they made for Barbara Palumbo, which comes with a cocktail shaker, and it's just, again, the effort and detail they put in to making it fun tells you a lot about the brand. It's a brand that doesn't take itself too seriously. I mean, with the story of how it happened, but it shows it's a brand that values itself by putting people within the watch community and industry, putting their name on their watches, people who are respected, and delivering a great product. Interesting colors, very fun, very vibrant. Again, we were talking about watches becoming more fun. I think this is going to be a trend that we'll see more and more of. People are going to start putting in more colors, being a bit different, setting themselves apart, not just following the norm. I find in my watch collecting now, a black dial watch, stainless steel, just seems boring and doesn't seem to have much of a place anymore. I need some color. I need more to it. And I think maybe not an out of order, or maybe one day, but things like the Ike Pod, I could quite easily add that into my collection because it doesn't cost too much and it's just so much fun. These are cool watches, and out of order watches are very cool watches as well. A bit of fun, not ridiculously priced, not boasting about the highest horology and shouting from the rooftops how amazing they are. They're just a really good brand. I can see this brand getting more and more popular as time goes on.
Yeah, I really agree with that statement. I love that watch. Brands are having a lot more fun with their pieces now. And interestingly, you answered the question I was going to ask you. So maybe I saved this for the end actually, but when we summarize, but I was going to ask you, out of all of the watches we saw, which would you realistically go for, as a piece in your collection? But let's hold that thought. We'll come back to it. I think I know now it's maybe iPod, but we'll round up on that. But another brand what was really cool and also has a very interesting story was Squale. And hands up, how many people listening would say Squale? They're Italian. I always thought they were Italian. I believe Palm always thought they were Italian. Yet, I think, Palm, you had an interesting conversation and maybe we found something out what we didn't know.
Yep, I was 100% off the thought that these are, this is an Italian brand, Italian watches, Italian military, very Italian. But no, it's a Swiss brand formed in 1959 by Charles von Buren. But the Italian link is they made a lot of watches for the Italian Navy and the Italian forces. Also now, the Maggi family, they control distribution of the watches and they are Italian. So that is possibly where the link came from. But saying that, they make some really good dive watches, again, at price points that you would just not expect a watch of that quality to be at. The watch I saw, which really impressed me, was a nice blue dive watch. The thing is, you could say it's generic, but when Squale has been on the wrists of people in the forces, used as a proper dive watch by people who really need them, whose lives depend on them sometimes. You get to see how much quality there is in a Squale. It is an excellent watch, and it's just definitely a brand worth looking at. Again, colors, they're not shy. Obviously, maybe it's the Italian influence, the very sprezzatura Italian influence on it all, but it is a great brand. But one brand where there's no debate on where they're from and why are they so named is Gerald Charles. And Andy, you got a chance to try on the rose gold version of the what are they called?
So, great question. What are they called? So, if I have to criticize, please, watch brands, if you're listening, can you just simplify names? So, what took to my eye was the Maestro 8.0 Squalette in rose gold skeleton. So yeah, so there's been another 0.0s before that. I'm having a bit of fun, but I just find it so crazy with names these days with certain watches. However, let's talk Gerald Charles. Absolute fantastic brand with it's Gerald Genta, and it's one of the last legacies remaining of Gerald Genta as in terms of his brands. Fortunately, when he passed away in 2011, also the brand stopped, in that period. And it was only 2019 when the brand basically came back to action. And again, I've been seeing these watches so much on Instagram. We're getting some great coverage and across, all media outlets, websites and articles, etc. But I want to check out these Gerald Charles new pieces. And yeah, I finally got to try on the rose gold skeleton, and it felt great on the wrist. It was nicely balanced. The skeletonization is a lot more industrial. So there's no kind of frills and finishing to that skeletonization, what makes you think, oh, wow, beautiful engraving, but it has a very kind of solid, robust look to it. Very sporty, kind of aggressive look, even though in rose gold. Then you have the 22K rose gold micro rotor as well, which, yeah, just beautiful. Very unusual aesthetics, I would say, in the overall range. And I would argue, and Palm, I'd love your opinion on this, I'd say it's a bit like Marmite. You rather love it or hate it. The good news is, I'll finish on this, is that this is their first iteration, and as Gerald Charles as a brand, they plan to re-release all of Gerald Charles, lineup, which he designed in the past, bringing it to modern standards again. And I think that's great. I'm excited to see what's next. Yeah, Pam, I'd love to know your opinion on the Maestro. Did you enjoy it?
Well, I was very happy to see Gerald Charles at WatchPro. It's such a big name, such a great brand. And it shows how good WatchPro is that they can bring in brands like this. It was amazing to try one on, or two on in the end. I tried the rose gold version that you tried on. And the one I particularly liked myself was, and we're going to go into the names, the long names now, was the Maestro GC Sport Grass, GC 2.0 TXTN02. That's quite a mouthful, but I'll just call it the Maestro Sport Grass. And the actual dial has a very textured, granular green dial. Again, check this out on Instagram. My words will not do this justice. It's got the classic Gerald Charles case shape. It's a left-hand drive. It's got the lovely rubber strap they have, but the dial is so grainy, green. It's a variety of greens, and they're supposed to mimic the grass on a tennis court. And specifically, the gentleman at Gerald Charles said to us, Wimbledon. So he actually said, this is what we call the Wimbledon dial. So it was a nice, lightweight, sporty, yet classic watch. I think with these, they can be anything. This isn't I wouldn't say go anywhere, do anything watch, but you can wear it on any occasion. A nice occasion, a dress down occasion. I wouldn't change my car tire with it on, but you can wear this, I think, to multiple places. It's just a really unique look. That's one thing about Gerald Charles. I think this was probably the most uniquely placed style of watch and brand of watch in the whole show. It's got the heavy hitter Gerald Charles name. It's got the unique look, which you can identify if you're in the know, you can identify that that's a Gerald Charles. And yet it's got these sporty vibes to it. It's got a very dressy vibe. The rose gold skeleton looked just beautiful. High aesthetic. These are just really surprising watches, and that's what I've said that a lot today. But the watches at this show really did surprise me. I was pleasantly surprised with pretty much everything I saw. I don't think there was a watch there that I didn't like, and I don't think there was a brand there that I wasn't impressed with. It's just, there you go. It just goes to show how your eyes can be opened looking at these independent brands, and independent brands are probably the future of the watch industry. We have our big high-end brands that we all love, but I think many collectors will start getting these watches. Gerald Charles, I made that mistake as well, is probably quite an expensive one to just have as a an off-the-cuff, pardon the pun, kind of purchase. But it's great to see all these brands and Gerald Charles speaking to them, and the interest they show in you as well is something else. There's no snobbiness, no snootiness. And it's a great brand and with some really great watches. What do you reckon, Andy, about the whole independence and the way we're going with these?
Yeah, I totally agree. I think they're the future, right? These are the brands, what are the key foundations of the watches of tomorrow. I totally agree. We're going to see new icons, new, just historical pieces, which we're seeing in our lifetime now, where it is just maybe, a lot of the time with historic pieces like the Daytona, people are meh, it's nothing special, and then all of a sudden it's an icon, right? You're going to see that with some of these independents as well. One day, some of their pieces will be iconic. Maybe not in our lifetime, who knows? But yeah, I'm really impressed with the overall atmosphere. To summarize the show, again, just no snobbery, extremely inviting, really warm ambience, great people, great event. And again, I can't wait for 2024. I'm going to finish really, really rapid. Palm, one watch what you can take. So you can take one watch from that show. What realistically you would put in your collection, which would it be? Quickfire.
Quickfire, realistic, price point, Ike Pod, the white one.
For me, I would go Yema in bronze, and I would go, the Superman Heritage. Thought it was really, really cool. So I think that's all we have time for.
How much was that, the Yema one?
Like 1,300.
Oh, really? Is that all? Okay. That's quite cheap. Okay, that's cool. So that's us done for another day and for another show.
So as always, we've mentioned so many watches in this episode, so sorry Instagram, I'm going to overload you. Make sure to check out our Instagram, chrono_passion_7, and check out our show notes as we will list all of the stunning watches, what we got to try on at this show. As always, an absolute pleasure. Please, if you haven't had a moment to follow our podcast, please do. It only takes a quick second. And also you will see on the main page of our podcast a section where you can rate us out of 1 to 5 stars. So this really helps us in the algorithm. Just please, if you've enjoyed these shows, give us a quick rating on there, and we'll really appreciate that. And that's goodbye from me.
We hope you enjoyed the show. If you are interested in going to WatchPro, it happens a week earlier next year, the 1st to 2nd of November. So give it a go. And if you do get a ticket, get the VIP ticket, because they really do look after you. I mean, it's such good fun. So many good people. You get to talk to everyone. Everyone gets to know each other every year, and it's like seeing old friends. Thank you so much for listening, and we will see you, and you'll hear us in the next one.